Hi, okay. So, top of the video, I want to say I know I feel like I probably mentioned this before. I wasn't going to talk about the virus and all that stuff too much because I know a lot of people are talking about it, and when people come and see what I'm doing and what I'm up to, I didn't want to be more of that. But I also know I have a lot of young people that check me out and are interested in what I'm doing. So I wanted to kind of talk to them and maybe help them try to understand some of the stuff that's going on. So let's dial back a little bit, and I'm going to mention this is a brief thing just to kind of help people understand things, talk about the Black Lives Matter movement. So, an aspect of the Black Lives Matter movement was that in the media, in the news, they weren't really covering it fairly. Like, for example, this is something before the Black Lives Matter movement started happening. I would talk with people and tell them about this. When there's a kidnapping, like a child is abducted, it would usually make news, right? And it could really catch. It could happen somewhere in Colorado or wherever in America, and it would go all the way across America. Sometimes it would even be an international news story over one child. Which I also want to say, if a child is kidnapped and that kidnapper is able to get that kid on a plane and fly away, that kid is gone. Like, I get it's important to get the information out there so you can get the kid back and everything, so if they're driving up and down the interstate, but that's what that information is for. That is usually a local news story to within 180 mile, whatever. Because kidnappers usually aren't very smart, and they usually don't have a lot of resources, because if they had all these things, they wouldn't be kidnapping a child. But point being, it was always a white kid that you'd see in the news. You know, kids of other ethnicities got kidnapped. But they don't put it in the news. And that's because the news is a for ratings, for profit type of industry. They want to catch your attention. So Black Lives Matter comes out because of issues like this, where if a little black kid was kidnapped, they weren't going to be covering that all over the news. Mostly because people wouldn't necessarily watch it. Also, I want to say usually little girls that make the news. Little boys would also be kidnapped, also would make the news. And it's that type of stuff that the news plays with. Now, it's not saying that any one of these issues is more important. You have to look at every circumstance as it is. But even still, it would get your attention. People would watch. Oh, is there anything else on this kidnapping? Anything else happening? Oh, they're checking the uncle's house now. Maybe the uncle has something. Maybe they did it. Just, we got wrapped up in these stories. So what's really in the news right now? Virus. That's all that's happening in the news. That's not all that's happening, but it's all the news is covering because we're eating it up. Everybody's eating it up. So every angle is getting played. Clickbait articles. Every article is a clickbait article, whether it's published by a news media program or whoever that you are aware of, or one you've never heard of. They all want you to click a link and be exposed to advertisers and be the thing that you go back to. So there's the angle of, is this faked? Do people know about it? Was it planned? What about this virus? Was it engineered? I think it's definitely very beneficial. This is my opinion. Very beneficial for China to have this virus have happen during the Hong Kong protests. But I'm not going to connect dots there without really knowing it. We're not going to know the truth this quickly. Most things in history, you have to wait for everything to settle. Then we go back and we find out what really happened. So doctors generally want the lockdown to stay in place. Nurses, medical professionals, everyone in those communities want that to happen. So if there was some kind of conspiracy where they're profiting too, I guess they're in on it. And I know politicians have had things that they did, like there was the insider trading. Both sides, both parties did this. Yeah, because people in power abuse their power. This isn't an issue of they are pushing for this agenda. It's, hey, something's happening. There's an opportunity to make money. They went for it. So I again, talking to young people, because I know there's young people on here, you're probably like, I don't even know what's happening. I don't know who to believe, who to trust. And that's okay and that's fine. That's scary and it sucks. And I'm not saying, oh, you should trust me. Like, what do I know? You know, because everybody who's doing videos and stuff, like if they're on YouTube, they're all doing it for the views. They all want to be the viral big sensation. Like, I am not planning on or expecting any of that to happen. I mean that really seriously. Like, you have no reason to trust me, but I have a small following, and that's who I speak to, and that's it, and that's okay. I don't imagine people will be sharing this video and, you know, getting more traction and everything, and that's totally and completely fine. But that is a thing that you do have to kind of worry about and scrutinize is, does this person actually care, or are they just part of this attention-seeking kind of industry? That's what we've moved into, though. That's what it was for national news networks, and that's what it's moving into for the internet, is this, you're hanging on every word. We're going to keep talking about this little white girl that was kidnapped, because that's what sells. But just, again, try to ask yourself, do you believe in science? Do you believe water boils? You heat water up, get it to a certain temperature, and it turns into air. Well, we can prove that. That's science. And part of science is doing experiments like that, taking cells and taking a virus and seeing how it interacts and doing even deeper and deeper studies. So if you think the people that are studying that kind of thing know what they're talking about, okay, go with that. Because I have some overlap with the medical community. You know, I've done psychology stuff. I've worked with psychiatrists. I've worked with, you know, nurses and doctors a little bit, but I am not a doctor, and I am not a nurse. I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't prescribe medication. But I'll say this, in my experience with people, generally, someone who has a little bit of experience in those fields has more knowledge than people without experience in those fields. Like a dentist does have medical training to a degree. Like they're working with the human body. A dentist for sure knows more about medicine and health than someone who is really good at editing. So if someone makes a really good video, is that what they're good at, though? Are they good at videos, or are they good at information about the subject that they're talking about? So that's kind of my little thing. Kind of said it, I talked about it. And again, yeah, I hope you can kind of try to decide on your own, but don't try to validate your doubt. Don't go, I don't think this is real, and then try to find someone who agrees with your doubt. That is the wrong thing to do. To go, I think maybe UFOs are real. Is there someone out there that agrees with my opinion that UFOs are real? Yes, there is. That doesn't mean they're real. Someone having the same dumb, wrong opinion doesn't make your opinion suddenly correct. But be doubtful, and just try to be as safe as you can. Do the procedures that will keep more people protected, and unfortunately you have to wait for this to be more in the past, to be more in history, to find out the truth, etc., etc. But don't worry about that right now.